They thought they escaped death, but death doesn't take no for an answer. What starts as a thrilling day at the races spirals into a nightmare of deadly visions and horrifying accidents. One by one, fate comes knocking, and no one is safe. Before we dive into this chilling story, don't forget to subscribe to the channel for more intense movie recaps, jaw-dropping twists, and cinematic thrillers. Now let's get into it. The movie kicks off with an adrenaline-pumping car race. The crowd is going wild, and among the excited spectators are our main characters, Hunt, Janet, Lori, and Nick. While everyone's enjoying the race, Nick steps away to grab drinks for his friends. When he returns and sits down, he notices something strange. The seat beneath them feels unstable. He starts observing the structure around them and sees cracks along the walls. The grandstand looks old, dangerously old. Suddenly, Nick is overwhelmed by a terrifying feeling, a vision of death. Down below, a race car pulls into the pit stop to change a tire. The driver, impatient, speeds off before the mechanic can remove a wrench still stuck in the car. As the car re-enters the track, the wrench falls, causing another car to blow a tire. That car flips over, launching a wheel into the stands, killing 2 people instantly. Another car crashes and bursts into flames, hurtling directly into the grandstand. Chaos erupts. People scream and scramble to escape, but it's too late for many. A couple is cut in half by flying debris. A girl is crushed by a falling engine. The entire structure collapses, burying the crowd, Hunt and Janet among them. Nick and Lori try to flee, but an explosion kills Lori and Officer George, who was standing beside her. A steel pole impales Nick, ending his life. Then, Nick jolts awake. It was a nightmare, or a premonition. He's still sitting in the grandstand. Panicked, he warns his friends, yelling that something terrible is about to happen. Hunt brushes him off, eager to watch the race. But Nick gets aggressive, dragging him away, causing a commotion that leads to them being kicked out along with a few other spectators. Officer George escorts them out. As Nick desperately tries to explain what he saw, the real catastrophe begins. Just as he predicted, the cars crash, the crowd panics, and the grandstand begins to collapse. A man named Jonathan tries to run back inside to save his wife, but George stops him. The scene unfolds exactly as Nick saw in his dream, but this time, a handful of people escape thanks to his warning. Later, Nick, Lori, Hunt, and Janet gather, shaken and confused. They ask Nick how he knew. He tells them about the vision, about the dream. Hunt, ever the arrogant one, laughs it off and brags about cheating death, vowing to live life to the fullest. That night, a memorial is held for the victims. Nick and Lori attend, surrounded by grieving families and survivors. One woman thanks Nick, saying he saved her life. Officer George also approaches him, curious how he knew. But before Nick can answer, they're interrupted by Jonathan, the man who lost his wife. Furious, he blames George for stopping him and vows revenge. Later that night, Nick has another disturbing dream. He sees a car, a specific medallion, hanging inside it. He wakes up startled, unsure what it means. Meanwhile, we see the reality. It's Jonathan's car. He's drunk, and he's on a mission to kill Officer George. Daniel pulls up to his house, dragging a shovel and a wooden plank. As he digs, his medallion accidentally falls onto the car stereo, switching it on. The sudden vibration makes the car shake, knocking a pizza box onto the gear shift. The car lurches forward. Daniel tries to stop it, but his foot gets tangled in the chain hanging from the tow hook. As the vehicle moves, the chain scrapes along the ground, creating sparks that ignite the car, and Daniel, engulfed in flames, he's dragged across the yard. Officer George rushes out of his house just in time to witness Daniel being pulled by the burning vehicle before it violently explodes. A scorched piece of Daniel's skull lands at George's feet. The next day, Daniel's horrific death hits the news. Lori sees the report and immediately tells Nick. Nick, disturbed, admits, "I dreamed about his death. I saw that exact car." At that moment, Nick experiences another vision. This time he sees a pair of scissors, a bent metal rod, and a flying stone. He starts realizing that these dreams are warnings, premonitions of the next deaths, but he still doesn't fully understand their meaning. Meanwhile, 2 mischievous boys are outside throwing rocks at a man mowing his lawn. Their mother, one of the survivors Nick saved, arrives and scolds them, handing them money to go buy snacks. She then walks into a nearby beauty salon for a haircut. Inside, the stylist adjusts the salon chair using a metal lever, eerily similar to the one from Nick's vision. She begins trimming the woman's hair. Tension builds, the chair malfunctions and collapses. The boys come rushing back in, slipping on spilled water. A hairspray can, overheated by a flat iron, launches across the room and hits a fan, knocking it loose. The fan nearly falls on the woman, but she survives. Close call. She walks out of the salon with her kids. Outside, the man with the lawnmower is still working. As he rolls over one of the rocks the boys had thrown, it launches at high speed straight into the woman's eye. She dies instantly. Nick gets the news. He gathers with Lori and the others again, desperate to convince them that death is still hunting them. Hunt, arrogant and overconfident, insists he's invincible. Janet, terrified, is in denial and refuses to believe any of it. "Good luck to you guys," she says, walking away. Nick stays behind with Lori, who asks, "So who's next?" Nick tries to recall the order, but fails. So they decide to revisit the racetrack, hoping it might jog his memory. While searching for clues, Officer George finds them and demands to know what they're doing. They explain everything, and to their surprise, he believes them. He takes them to the security room to review surveillance footage, hoping to identify the next victim. They spot a man wearing a mechanic's uniform, and from the name of the shop on his shirt, they figure out where he works. They rush to the garage to warn him. Naturally, he doesn't believe their bizarre story. While they're talking, the car lift suddenly malfunctions, and a vehicle comes crashing down, stopping just inches from crushing him. The mechanic scoffs. "See, if I were supposed to die, that car would have killed me." But before he finishes the sentence, the lift's pulley snaps. A metal hook swings violently, slamming into a fire extinguisher. It explodes, launching the mechanic into a metal fence, slicing him to pieces. Back with Lori, Nick identifies the next two in line, Hunt and Janet. They both died at the same time in the original vision. He rushes off to find Hunt, while George and Lori go after Janet. Nick calls Hunt, warning him, but Hunt is relaxing at the pool, completely unconcerned. While Hunt struts around, a kid sprays him with water. Annoyed, Hunt pushes the kid into the pool and grabs his water gun. The toy falls onto the pool's electrical panel, triggering the suction system. At that moment, Hunt drops a quarter into the pool and dives in after it. Suddenly, the powerful suction grabs him. Nick arrives, searching frantically, but it's too late. Hunt is pinned underwater, unable to escape. The suction intensifies, and Hunt is pulled in, his body shredded by the drain. Blood fills the pool and the filtration system. At the same time, Janet is at a car wash. She texts Lori, telling her she's there and will call her after she's done. Janet drives into the car wash, unaware of the danger ahead. Her car has a faulty sunroof that keeps opening and closing on its own. Once inside, a short circuit shuts down the conveyor belt, leaving her car stalled mid-wash. Janet tries to open the door, but it's jammed. Suddenly, the sunroof opens, water gushes in, and a large pipe above her vehicle breaks loose, pouring water directly onto her. The car begins to fill. Panicking, Janet lifts her head through the sunroof, but gets stuck, her body halfway out. Just as the conveyor starts again, the vehicle begins to move, dragging her along. At the last second, Lori and George arrive. They rush to the other side and push the car just in time. Lori grabs Janet and pulls her out, saving her from a watery grave. After the rescue, George turns to Lori and says, "There are two possibilities. Either we just broke the death chain, or it's still coming, and I'm next. And honestly, I'm okay with that. I want to be with my wife again." That night, worried about George, Nick and Lori go to his house. They find him attempting to hang himself, but he's still alive. They save him just in time. Shocked, they ask, "Why would you do this?" George replies, "I want to die on my own terms. I've tried everything, overdosing, hanging, but nothing works. I can't die." Nick and Lori are ecstatic. That's it. That means we broke the chain. Death's plan is over. They celebrate, finally feeling safe. But the next day, Nick has another vision. He realizes George wasn't next in line. There was another man, a survivor who had been pulled from a wreckage and taken to the hospital. Nick rushes to call George and tells him to meet at the hospital. There, an elderly man is undergoing hydrotherapy in a water tank. The nurse steps out, leaving the water running. It overflows and leaks through the ceiling, right above the room of the real next victim. The ceiling collapses, killing the man instantly. Now Death's order is back on track. George is next. As Nick and George leave the hospital to warn Lori, A car slams into George, killing him on the spot. Nick races to find Lori. At that moment, Lori is at the mall with Janet. They're at the movies. What they don't know is that, behind the theater, construction work is underway. Flammable materials, oils, paints are scattered around. Through a small opening, sunlight hits a pair of glasses positioned at just the right angle. The lens concentrates the beam onto sawdust, starting a slow-burning fire. The flames crawl toward barrels of fuel. An explosion imminent. Nick reaches the theater just in time. He finds Lori and tells her to leave immediately. She follows, but Janet, convinced the danger has passed, stays behind to finish the movie. "This is all in your head," she says. Seconds after Lori and Nick exit, the theater explodes. Janet dies instantly, but it's not over. As Nick and Lori rush down the escalator, the building starts to collapse. The stairs fall apart, trapping Lori's foot in the mechanism. She's pulled into the gears. Nick tries to hold her, but she slips and is violently shredded by the machinery. Suddenly, Nick wakes up. It was another vision. George had just been hit by the car. There's still time. Nick runs to the construction site behind the theater, determined to stop the explosion. He manages to put out the fire, but a small spark jumps to another pile of wood. A second fire starts. Nearby, a nail gun falls off a table and fires, shooting a nail straight into Nick's arm, pinning him to the wall. He struggles to free himself as the fire creeps toward the fuel barrels. Thinking fast, he lights a piece of wood and holds it up to trigger the smoke detectors. The sprinkler system activates just in time. Water floods the room, extinguishing the flames. No one dies. Nick survives, injured but alive. 3 weeks later, Nick meets Lori and Janet at a quiet cafe. A passerby recognizes him, thanking him for preventing the cinema disaster and saving dozens of lives. Nick sits like a true hero, finally at peace, until he feels that same chilling sensation, the feeling he always gets before death strikes. He turns to the others and says, "What if we didn't change anything? What if being here right now was part of death's plan all along?" Before he can finish his sentence, a massive truck crashes through the cafe window, plowing through all three of them. Bones snap, glass shatters, everything goes black. Just when they thought it was over, fate had one final twist. If you enjoyed this heart-pounding ride and want more movie recaps full of suspense, action, and shocking endings, make sure to hit that subscribe button, turn on notifications, and join us for the next story where survival is never guaranteed.